Hey guys, project-zodiac here. I'm back with another video, and this is another movie review, and this is my review on the third chronologically Christopher Reeve universe Superman movie, Superman Returns. Now, I know that many of you might say it's not canon to it or it's set in an alternate universe. For me, it's canon to that universe, not an alternate telling of that universe. For me, it makes sense, and I'll explain why as these reviews go on. It doesn't really contradict almost anything with it being canon. Which again, we will talk about those in the other movies because some people might say that the other movies kind of contradict this one being canon, but it doesn't. I'll explain that in parts here from the movies we've already had before, and then as the next movies go, I'll explain that as well. So to just give a quick spoiler-free response and review on this movie in anticipation for the new Superman movie that's coming out in July. That's why I'm reviewing all of the Christopher Reeve universe Superman movies. So what do I think about Superman Returns? So I remember when it came out in theaters and I was super excited for it. And I remember going and watching it. I do think parts of it is pretty slow, but overall, it's, in my opinion, way better than Superman 2. And again, as of right now, I've only seen the theoretical cut of Superman 2, not the Donner cut. So, yeah, I think it was way better than Superman 2. And this movie itself is a really, really good Superman movie. They show us things that I always wondered, like when I was little, like, oh, what would happen if this happens to Superman? Then they show us in that movie what happens. Like, for example, I remember when I was really little, right before the movie came out, I was thinking, what would happen if Superman gets shot in the eye? Would it just bounce off like it does for the rest of his body? And then to my surprise, just soon after having that thought, maybe by a couple of days or a couple of weeks, as I was excited for the movie, this movie showed that exact scenario, and I got so excited when I saw it. They show us people trying to revive Superman. They show us people fighting for him. They show Superman in a way that a lot of the movies don't. And it's something that shows his humanity, his essence. And it's something that really just up to right now in this chronological order was only shown in Superman 1. And I really liked how that was all handled in this movie. And honestly, as well, the actor that plays Clark in Superman in this movie, he does a fantastic job. I think he looks close enough to Christopher Reeve to make it feel like it is in that same universe. In fact, a lot of the characters look like the characters from the Christopher Reeve series, with the exception of a few people, specifically the Daily Planet people, specifically even more so Lois Lane. She looks nothing like the original actress. And I don't know why they didn't cast someone like the actress that plays Lois in this movie does a fantastic job, but I just don't know why they didn't cast someone that looked more like the original actress, considering they went out of their way to make other characters be cast like their original versions. But it's fine. So yeah, this movie also does a very interesting story. I also really like that we do see Superman damaged and hurt in a way that we hadn't seen before, and it felt very, very emotional as well. I think that this was a pretty emotional movie towards the ending of it. I thought it was really well done. The special effects is amazing for this movie. I think it's really, really good. It has that aesthetic that the original series does, and yeah, I just really, really like this movie. The only real complaints I have with it is that it is a bit slow in some parts. Oh, sorry, right before I go into the complaints, even Lex. If you see my other two reviews, you would see that Lex had always been one of my biggest complaints, but Lex in this movie is actually really cool. He is like he is in the other movies, but a little bit more serious, and I really like that. So yeah, I really like how they handled Lex in this movie. And this is, set to be after Superman 2, at least the theoretical cut, and I think it connected pretty well, and I'll talk about that in the spoiler section. I also just think that overall, the only complaints that I had really is that it can be a slow movie at times. And there's a couple of things that I wish they would have done a little bit different with the story. I can't really say too much about that because it is a spoiler part. But then also at the same time, just some of the parts of the script was um, a little like, how can I say it? Not convoluted, but it's like they wanted to make something bigger out of it and then just made it more complicated than it needed to be in some parts. But other than that, I think it worked out pretty good. It's still a very enjoyable movie. So I prefer it over Superman 2 theoretical cut. I do not prefer it over Superman 1. That one's still much better, but this one is still very, very good. And yeah, so that's my spoiler-free section. There's a lot I want to say in the spoilers section, so if you want to stick for the spoilers, thank you. If you don't, then thank you for watching until now. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. When it comes, subscribe and let me know what you think on the movie. But now, for those of you that want to know about the spoiler conversations, yeah, this movie is amazing. So let's just go straight into the biggest plot issue here. How this connects with Superman 2. So it's set about 5 years after Superman 2. Lois doesn't seem to remember that Clark is Superman, but she seems to be aware that her son is Superman's kid, and I guess that, this movie picks up from that. So, given the fact that this movie goes from that, right? It's something that other movie, the sequels, people say contradict it just because of the fact that Lois's kid and husband is never mentioned again. Well, she's not actually married, at least not in this movie. They have this whole joke that, she keeps postponing the wedding, that they're just engaged right now. So, but they probably do get married later on, considering the rest of the movie is set a few years after. But the fact that, the other character, like her son and husband at that point, aren't mentioned or seen in the other movies isn't really an issue, but we'll talk about that when we get to the last movie in this series. Now, in regards to that particular fact of Superman having a son, I love how they handled that. It was really well done. But again, I wish they handled it a little bit differently because, yes, he finds out he has a son. He goes and sees his son, and it's beautiful because he says the words that his father said to him, his blood dad said to him when he right before he sent him to to Earth. But they do nothing with his son, and that's where I thought it was strange, because if they do nothing with his son, what was the point of that? And I'm not talking about it because of sequels or anything like that. I mean, like, he just goes there to the house, says something, that message to his son as his son is sleeping, and then leaves. And then he sees Lois sees him, and then his son wakes up, says bye. So, in other words, this movie hyped up Superman having a son, but doesn't even give us a conversation between the fact with him and Lois that they have a son. Why was that not implemented? So that's what I mean by they do nothing with his son, is that, yes, his son protects Lois and all of that, but it's just the fact that they really did not have a conversation about it. Like, is the son not going to know his dad is Superman, his blood dad? Because when he's a little bit older and he's going to start, running super fast, how are you going to explain this? And I think that this is something that Lois and Superman should have had a conversation about in this movie. I don't mind that his son is not mentioned or shown in the other movies after this one. It is something that should have been having a conversation for in this movie. And then another big complaint here too is that what's it called? I just had it on my head. The movie has, I'm trying to remember here. What was it I was gonna say? Let me see if I can remember. Yes, I remember. The movie has modern technology in it. We got cell phones, computers, all of that. And it makes no sense because the original movies is in the 70s and 80s. So the technology is one thing that a lot of people use to kind of say that it's a alternate retelling of the original universe. Everything that happened in the Christopher Reeve movies happened in this one, just in modern times. That's fine, but for me, that's, just them being dumb and not going with it. I think it's just a production thing. For me, it's still set in the same universe, because again, it doesn't really contradict anything. Lois clearly does remember that she spent time with Superman. She just doesn't remember that he was Clark. So I guess this proves that the memory kiss at the end of Superman 2 was just to remove the memories of Superman being Clark, and not about her time with Superman. Now, on top of that, the modern technology in this movie, it does stand out a little bit, but there's such few moments with it that you can kind of just let it go. So it's not too much of an issue. Now, would have preferred if they had made this movie not using modern technology in it, like no phones or anything, like cell phones or anything? Yes, because they had that choice. They just chose not to. It's not like, for example, the Fast and Furious movies, where Tokyo Drift is the third movie released, but it's like chronologically set, like way later. I forgot where. I think it's like number 8 chronologically or something like that. So when you watch the Fast and Furious movies in chronological order, and then you put Tokyo Drift there, yes, the technology stands out big time because it's really outdated. But that's not really their fault in a production side of things, because that movie was released, as the third movie. Except that then they, during making the sequels, rearranged the timeline of that movie and made it further ahead. So yes, you kind of have to put up with that technology there, and it is a very big focus. But in the back of your mind, you can put it aside. It is a bit distracting, but you can put it aside. But here, it's the opposite of that, because it's a modern day movie being made to be set back in like the 70s or 80s. But they chose to include modern technology in it. So it really sticks out because of that. Because Fast and Furious didn't really have a choice in the technology that they had when they were making Tokyo Drift. But this movie does have influence over the technology that they're showing in the movie that's supposed to be set in the past. So that is just one nitpicky thing, but honestly, the modern technology isn't too bad, and really the biggest factor here comes down to just the cell phones. The use of computers and all of that stuff really isn't actually an issue, especially when you watch the next movie, which we'll talk about that there. So yeah, it's not too bad. I think that it can be forgiven. And then in terms of some other complaints that I have with the movie is Superman's suit. I don't mind the blue, but the red that they went with is a terrible brown red color. I don't know why they went with that option. But yeah, it's really bad. And yeah, other than that, I mean, there isn't. Honestly, I'm glad that we got to see Clark with his mom a bit more. And the scene with Superman, most likely being dead and people trying to bring him back to life, that was emotional. That was really, really, really well done. And it's one of my favorite scenes in all of the Superman movies. So yeah, this movie does a lot of things right. It's just there's some things I wish that they would have tweaked a little bit to make it a lot better. Mostly in regards to the red in his suit, him not having a conversation with Lois about their kid, and also about the fact of the modern technology. But that doesn't really ruin the movie too much for me. It's still a very good movie. We see Superman being stabbed, and Lex actually does a lot of damage to him. It was really impressive when we see him, doing something very impressive of lifting a kryptonite-filled island to space so he can save the Earth. And that was really emotional. That was really well done. So yeah, this movie has some slight issues here or there, but really when it comes down to it, oh yeah, and then again, some things that wasn't needed. Like there's a whole big back and forth with them looking for Lois and all that stuff. I understand why they did that, but it just needed to be done a little bit different. There's just a lot of scenes that dragged on for no reason at all. But yeah, other than that, again, I think that this movie does a really good job for a lot of the things, and I think it's a bit overhated. Overall, so far, this is my favorite sequel, and I'm really excited to see how the other ones will be. I mean, as of right now, I've just finished watching all of them, but I'm excited to talk about them and share my thoughts on those sequels. So yeah, guys, let me know what you think about Superman Returns. Do you consider it canon to the Christopher Reeve universe? Do you not? Do you consider it as an alternate universe? And what do you think about all of this? With all that said, rate, comment, subscribe, and I'll talk to you later. Have a good day, everyone.